I'm not a native English speaker. I'm coming from the country of maybe the best beers in the world, and the country of Tintin of fine chocolate. So I'm coming from Belgium, so please, yes, I apologize for my English, but I hope you will understand the presentation. First of all, in my agenda, I will explain you what the company, what is ContactOffice, the company which I work for. Then I will explain you the goal of this presentation. It's in fact a case study. I will explain you how we did use GWT to migrate from a classical web application toward a new Web 2.0 application. The first step in the re-engineering was to select a framework. The result of the selection you will see was the Google Web Toolkit, but we had other opportunities. Next, I will explain you what were the extensions, the enhancements we made on GWT to make it work for our application. And finally, I will show you some slides about our GWT-based site, beta.contactoffice.com, that is already available. So first, ContactOffice, it is a company and a website offering since 1999 a collaborative and messaging web application. I will show you the different tools we are offering. So we are one of the few survivors of the dot-com bubble burst. Our company has mainly customers in continental Europe, in France, in Belgium. We had already about 1 million registrations, but that doesn't mean anything. In fact, we have today more than 350,000 active accounts. When active, I mean at least one activity per month. And what is more interesting, we have about 250,000 paying accounts. Our application is global. It was translated in 6 different languages, and our company is profitable since 2003. So the different tools we are offering, we offer, in fact, all the classical virtual office tools. For example, we offer a sophisticated calendar, an address book, a to-do list tool, notes, bookmarks. All the tools have all the bells and whistles you can dream of. We offer RSS feeds on the different tools, synchronization with smartphones, and so on. We have also a state-of-the-art messaging, a webmail, a mail application accessible with other protocols like IMAP or POP. We offer client for SMTP, an SMTP server, and so on, antivirus, anti-spam. And what is interesting in our messaging application is that we are using a unified addressing scheme, so you can send the same message as a fax, as a mail, as an SMS, and so on. We have also a document repository that you can access as a web application, but also as a WebDAV application, for example, in the Explorer. And the documents could be accessed as RSS feeds, for example, to provide a podcast access. We have also some collaborative tools like forum wikis, bulletin boards, phone calls, and so on. And what is important for us is that all the objects in the application, when I speak of object, that means, for example, a contact, a calendar event, and so on, a to-do. All the objects could be shared and you can tell that object can be accessed by Z people, Z other people, and so on. So object, a person at an object level. That's a very fine-grained access control. So the application is available as an ASP, application service provider, working on our machines, but also as in a license mode, for example, for universities and so on. So we have various customers, mobile operators, large companies, in France, in Belgium. We have many universities as customers, and also customers in the United States, for example, Office.com is working. Yet you will not always see that an application is running ContactOffice. We are selling the application with a customized look and feel for some customers. The technologies we are using. First of all, we have a pure Java backend. And we are using only POJOs, plain old Java objects, so no enterprise Java beans at all. What is particular to ContactOffice is that we are not using a classical relational database, but we are using an object-oriented database that makes our work as developer far easier, and as our database access are mainly navigational, we have a very efficient access. So the software, the backend is architected around a core business logic, and we have various satellites, the web applications, SMTP servers and client, POP3 client and server, and so on and so on. So our backend was built since the beginning for scalability, and we are still happy with that software.
Excuse me. Which
yes?
Object-oriented database are you using?
Version fast objects.
Fast objects?
Yes.
Okay.
As web clients, well, we are still using in our classical application a Web 1 still interface using classical technologies, standard HTML, JavaScript, and style sheet. What is important to mention is that we have more than 2,000 JSP pages to maintain, not only for standard application, but we have a customized version and so on. We offer also access to Pocket Explorers, to Symbian browsers, to WAP browsers, and also to, we have a prototype in Voice XML. So the goal of the re-engineering was to replace the old-fashioned, you see the current interface of ContactOffice with frames, with with checkboxes and so on. And we would like to migrate to an up-to-date interface with the drag and drop, with fancy widgets and so on. So the first step for us, and that was back 2 years ago, was to select a framework. And our first idea 2 years ago was to build our own framework. We were working with smart guys, and at that time there were no very good JavaScript-based framework working. And we began to build our own framework, but in fact, that's not our business. What we are doing well is to build applications, but to build such a user interface framework is an enormous job, and we looked at other solutions. Another important question was Ajax or Flash. You know, there are many excellent solutions of Flash-based frameworks, for example, OpenLazlo or Adobe Flex. Well, for us, the drawbacks of those solutions was, first of all, a mix of XML and of script syntax. That was not the best solution for us. And for Adobe, the problem was a kind of server-side lock-in, not on the client side, but well on the server side. There are other solutions. Silverlight was not an acceptable solution for us. We have a Java backend, and that is not appropriate. Maybe JavaFX and good old applets in the future, if the Java virtual machines change its architecture to a more light architecture, it would become an excellent solution as well. Another kind of interesting framework are ultra lightweight clients. That means a very small JavaScript client. In fact, all the work is done on the server, or most of the work is done on the server. But so examples of that kind of frameworks are Eco2, ZK, SynWire, very smart framework. But we find that we have questions about their scalability. In fact, we don't believe they scale well. And then, last but not least, there are existing, today there are a new JavaScript-based framework like Dojo Prototype, the Yahoo user interface, MooTools, and so on. All those frameworks are strict JavaScript language frameworks, but that may be the problem. So, in fact, JavaScript is a very powerful language. It has interesting constructs, and everybody needs to know that kind of construct. For example, the functions in JavaScript are first-class objects. That means you can manipulate functions like any other object, and it's a very interesting feature. JavaScript has already closures, and other interesting concepts like prototype. Metaprogramming is very easy in JavaScript. You can build a program as a character string and then evaluate it. Dictionaries are ubiquitous, dynamic typing. Those are very interesting features. But that's what JavaScript becomes when you try to build a large-scale application. So that's not the case for small JavaScript program, but when I speak about large application, that means application larger than, say, 1,000 or 2,000 lines of code. When you work on large application, you find that all the features of JavaScript become very dangerous. For example, on the fly variables declaration, a very weak typing, you can assign everything to everything. The dynamic evaluation of expression, all those features makes that very interesting IDEs, operations become absolutely impossible. For example, refactoring in a large Java application under Eclipse, I can decide to change a function name to a new name. That operation is absolutely impossible to handle in JavaScript. There are other impossible operations, smart searches. Where is that function used in my program? Impossible to answer in JavaScript. Yes, you can do a syntactical search, but not a true search of the function, for example. Impossible to make a real-time compilation to detect syntax errors. The readability is often questionable. The scoping of the program of the construct and the encapsulation is very weak. That's difficult to handle large applications with those characteristics. And what is very dangerous is that in JavaScript, most of the errors are only detected at runtime and not at compile time. And even worse, the DOM, the data object model of the browsers, are different from browser to browser. The portability is very difficult to obtain, and so on. So as a conclusion, to handle efficiently a large program with multiple developers, that require an extremely strict discipline. And that makes, in fact, I think, the use of JavaScript impossible for large-scale applications. That was the reason why we were immediately, since May last year, we were interested by GWT. So you know that what GWT means. It's in fact a translator of Java to the JavaScript language. Still, until December, it is fully open source as the component, the user-side component, as well as the compiler are completely open source with a very liberal license. What is interesting is that GWT, even if you develop your software in Java, it doesn't require any plugin, any Java virtual machine. It is just 1 year old, but very mature. You can build professional applications with GWT today. It's always beta, as a lot of other Google software, but it's very stable. So some feature we found of, yes, I'm not affiliated with Google. In fact, is our opinion I express here. So some interesting feature of GWT for us was the performance was excellent. The GWT offers an aggressive caching, an excellent code optimization, compression. For us, with a Java backend, a pure Java backend, the integration was easy. GWT integrates a very efficient remote procedure call mechanism. But if you have a PHP backend, you can work with JSON. The code generated by GWT is very portable. There are different binaries, different object codes that are generated for 5 different families of browsers. And if you need to use some JavaScript code, for example, to build a wrapper around a JavaScript application, you can still access the JavaScript through GSNI. And last but not least, it was very interesting for us, GWT integrates an internationalization function that is very sophisticated. That are all a plus point. We have a little problem with the GWT solution. The Java knowledge is required not only for the software engineers, but also required for the user interface designers. That's currently a weak point of the solution. You can not only work on the CSS to build the user interface, so there are some Java knowledge that is required by UI designers. So the Java proposed by GWT is only, as of today, Java 1.4, but the Java 1.5 is coming very soon, promised for the next release of GWT. It integrates a large subset of java.lang and java.util packages with some features that were not implemented for a performance reason. For example, no introspection, no dynamic class loading. But the fact that those features are not present in GWT allows better optimization of the code. The collection framework is fairly complete. The compiler is very interesting for some features like dead code elimination. So you can have code, if a code is not referenced, it will not be included in the object, in the final object code. There are also interesting mechanisms like the different binding. It is not needed to have if Mozilla code in your code that the binary there are different binaries for the different browsers, and no conditional code is needed. So Google provides relatively rich UI libraries containing many widgets, panels, but we found some missing pieces. So the key point of GWT for us was that it allows to work with in an industrial software engineering mode. There are a lot of tools available to work in GWT. You can work with Eclipse. In fact, with all the usual Java tools you are used to use. The debugging is possible with the GWT hosted mode. The JUnit testing is possible. All the refactorings, all the Java source control system. And you can use all the searches, refactoring, autocomplete, quick fixes, and so on. And what is really important that most of the errors could be detected at compile time and not at runtime like in JavaScript. So we've built some enhancements to GWT, and one of the most important enhancements was needed by, it is needed for all large-scale applications. It's to build a model view controller framework. It is really the key factor for a successful large application. It is necessary because the programming model of an AJAX application, an asynchronous application, makes that you need a discipline of the different components of your software. And as a positive side effect of the MVC framework, it eases collaboration between two kinds of people, the software developers and the UI designers. We've also implemented a drag and drop. Drag and drop is not yet available in GWT, will be soon. A look and feel we've developed, you will see later on our look and feel. We've put a lot of effort on that point. We've added contextual menus, not available in GWT. A marquee selection that allows the user to select a rectangular region in different parts of the software. We've added also draggable splitters to resize Windows rich text edit. Those features are available now in the standard GWT in the latest release. We've also data grid and enhanced dialogues with the different property pages. Some widgets like editable label, progress bar. One important lesson we've learned is that nothing was made impossible by GWT. So, in fact, even low-level mechanisms like drag and drop was developed in pure Java. We've not written a single line of JavaScript to implement the complete drag and drop engine. So to give you an idea of what the current state of the ContactOffice migrated application is, we've spent about 1.2 million years. What a man! And but that is fast growing for the moment. that represent about 35,000 lines of code, and we estimate that when all the tools will be migrated, that will give us a program of about 50,000 lines of Java code. 250 files, about 500 classes. And, well, the binary code, original JavaScript makes about 5 megabytes. That's a very huge program. But once the program is, you can generate the GWT program under different format. Original JavaScript, for example, for debugging, but also compressed in compressed JavaScript. And the compressor is very smart, and the kind of compression it uses is impossible to handle in standard JavaScript, because the compiler knows the meaning of the different identifiers. And for example, the identifiers are reduced in size to 1, 2, or 3, 4 characters maximum. What is interesting also is that I made an experiment yesterday with the brand new GWT 1.4, and we have 25% of more compression. Once gzipped, so our web server transmits the file as a gzip stream. For the GWT 1.3 version, we have only 270 kbytes, about 200 kbytes for GWT 1.4. That means less than 1 second with a high bandwidth line. So it's completely acceptable for our application. And even better, the caching mechanism used by GWT is very, very smart. So the program is only downloaded the very first time. So we have different actors in our software development process. The software engineer, the UI designer, and the internationalization specialist. And the first step is for the software engineer, she has to develop the RPC and the model part of our application, the data part of the application. And, you know, UI design and software design are two completely separate business. What we have to do for the software engineer is a very raw UI design with simple widgets, simple panels, and so on. And then the UI designer has to develop the style sheet, and that's a difficult point. The UI designer has today to enhance the UI design in Java with better panels, better widgets. He has to implement better formatting, and that's a difficult job. We are working heavily to collaborate between the software and the UI design. We are working heavily with Subversion as a central repository to share the code. So there are different iterations of that process. And finally, we deliver the software to the internationalization specialist to translate all the text. It seems I've heard that Google is working on that workflow to improve it in the future. I told you that the model view model was very important. For us, we've implemented, instead of a model view controller, a kind of model view remoting model. So the model implements all the classes describing the data in the client software. So that the model is a model only, front-end only part of the software, and it implements abstract classes like an abstract model object, That means that all objects in the application or the model objects are inherit from that class. For example, a contact, a mail, a calendar event are all a specialization of that generic object. A model folder is the parent for classes like a calendar, an address book, and so on. The remoting classes are shared by our front-end and our back-end. So those classes are, for those who know GWT, all the services async, and the data transfer objects are implemented in the remoting part of our framework. So what is difficult with all Ajax applications is that you have to cope with the asynchronous side, with asynchronous calls. So it is implemented in GWT, in RPC, GWT RPC, as an asynchronous call followed by an asynchronous callback. That's the kind of thing we would like to hide to the Vue developer. Ideally, the Vue developer has only to call for data and obtain the data immediately. Unfortunately, with the JavaScript language, JavaScript is a single thread language that is, in fact, impossible. So there are different things you can do to interact between the Vue and the model. If you are lucky, you can make synchronous calls to the model, for example, to ask what is the value of the contact address field and so on. But you need to be sure that the data was already delivered by the server. Another way to interact between the Vue and the model is to work with an observer design pattern. You add the listener to the model and ask him, please notify me when the data are available. It's very generic, very powerful, but sometimes difficult to use. And we have added a third kind of asynchronous call. It is an asynchronous call for data, but with the command piggybacking. I will describe that later on. So that's the moment for the tip of the day. Well, the two following slides are intended mostly for people who know GWT in some details. So if you know async callback, it's an interface used by GWT to communicate the information sent by the server. In fact, that we've implemented an abstract class encapsulating a generic async callback. And at that level, we've implemented the trouble handling. You know, when we are waiting for answers from the server, that's an excellent point in generic async callback. Another thing we are doing in our implementation of async callback is a generic RPC exception handling. And last point we've added is command piggybacking. That means that we can ask to an async callback, please execute this command when the answer from the server was successful. That's interesting because in all our software, we have a situation like the user creates an event, but I want immediately to open a dialog box to edit the attributes of that event. But you have to make a round trip with the server. You have to ask to the server to create the event, and when the event is created, you have to pop up the dialog box. That's a pattern you will find tens of times in our software. And yes, that's the description of the the mechanism we are using. In fact, I will not enter in all the details, but the trick was to add to the model call a dialog comment, a comment, in fact, that will be executed when the server gives the answer. That mechanism could be used as an alternative to the observer pattern or simultaneously with that pattern. So now I will show you some of the modifications we've used with GWT. That's our current interface you can find at www.contactoffice.com. And that's a view of our new interface. For those who know GWT, here we have an extension of the menu bar. We've put nice icons in our class, an horizontal splitter. That component is now available, that widget is now available in the new version of GWT. And here we are using an iframe, a frame widget. Another component you will find in our application is the tree view. In fact, in GWT, you have a tree, a simple tree. We've extended the tree with new features like drag and drop, source and target. You can right-click on the different elements of the tree to obtain contextual menus. And the generic tree view works in close relationship with some abstract components of the model. That's another important component of ContactOffice. It's a list view, a smart list view with logical scrolling, multi-select, marquee selection, sortable columns, special key and links, drag and drop, sources, and so on. So we've built a generic list view class that is reused all around our application by, for example, the address book and so on. We have also built an enhanced dialog class with things like a modal or a modeless mode. I think that feature is implemented in the new GWT. We've added particularly a property page mechanism, a framework for allowing us to make some validations and enable the save button only if all the pages are valid and so on. There are also different events generated by that enhanced dialog. We've also implemented a contextual menu. It's quite easy in GWT. In fact, you have only to put a menu bar in a pop-up panel. But what is really difficult is the invocation. For a PC, you have only to use a right-click. So we are able to catch a right-click. But for in Opera, that is impossible, so we have to find other solutions. So we've built a drag-and-drop engine. That's not, I will not enter into the details. Another interesting feature of GWT is that you can still use the other technologies. That's an example. The frame here, it was developed completely. It is our GWT application, but that frame content is in fact a JSP. So you can mix the two technologies in the same applications. It's very interesting for during a migration. So for example, a dialog box can contain a frame developed in a JSP. That's our new calendar, brand new calendar. You can test it on beta.contactoffice.com, where you can drag and drop events, resize events, and so on. So 2 words about our backend. Our backend used a generic servlet, a single servlet that extends the GWT remote service servlet. That servlet implements all the services that are required by the front end. And in fact, it's a simple dispatcher, a simple call dispatcher. And for every call, every RPC invocation, we instantiate an abstract handler. And that class, in fact, implements all we need to validate the user credentials, to handle the database transactions, and so on. So we have only to implement some logic in a specific handler, like the make handler, calendar handler, address book handler, and so on. And those handlers invoke, in fact, the business logic. So in our experience, the backend integration was really was easy. It was super clean. We were lucky to have a pure Java backend. And we had already a migration. We had already developed some software in DWR. I don't know if you know the direct web rerouting. It's a very interesting Java to JavaScript framework. And the migration path was very fast. We have only 5,000 of a specific line of code. And well, the problem we have to face for the moment is to provide a good synchronization between the software version in the backend and in the front end. So we have still a lot of to-dos. Usability is a very complex subject. A lot of bug fixes. We have still missing tools we have to develop for task and group management to match the current state of our old application. And an interesting point is the customization. How could we build an application meeting the customer's requirement? We've also we've worked on dynamic CSS evaluation, and one of our questions is, do we have to implement customization at compile time or at runtime? I mean, do we have to use if that feature has to be compiled at runtime? Is to be implemented at runtime or at compiler. The problem for the moment with GWT is that the compile time is quite long if we have different customers. It takes minutes for multiple languages, multiple browsers, and so we don't know exactly what we will do. And the last point, we have still issues concerning Safari and Opera portability, and for example, for the contextual menus. The current version of beta.contactoffice.com doesn't work on the current version of Safari, but well on nightly builds of WebKit, so if you want to try. So the beta is available at, if you want to try it, there are free accounts at beta.contactoffice.com. Okay, that's it. If we have time for some questions.
Hi, you said that it was available for most browsers, for most IDEs. I was wondering if it's available on NetBeans at the moment.
On?
You said that the GWT integrated into most IDEs at the moment. Like
yes.
Eclipse. I was wondering if it's available in NetBeans yet.
In
NetBeans.
NetBeans, yes. I've heard that there is a possibility to work in NetBeans. In fact, the GWT itself is not tied in any way to Eclipse. It's only easier because there are a lot the examples. There is a comment that facilitates things for for Eclipse, but I don't think there are anything that ties the IDE with GWT.
There is a net need to plug into GWT.
Yes.
It said that you use like a rich text editor. Did you write your own rich text editor, or did you use like an existing library out there, like TinyMCE or something like that?
We've used TinyMCE. It's not an excellent experience because we had to build a wrapper around, and it's very complex. We will switch as soon as possible to the rich edit component of GWT.
I'm in the same situation. That's
yeah. Difficult.
So,
yeah.
Interesting, particularly with the experience that you mentioned at the very end there about how you can address cross-browser compatibility issues if your Java developers don't have the knowledge that your UI developers do have, and what level of access GWT gives you to be able to tweak the code that's compiled to be able to address stuff that you may have identified, or whether you have to kind of contribute back and wait for the next release of GWT to be able to make use of anything you've investigated.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of your development cycle that you're basically just stuck not being able to support Opera and Safari at the moment, even if you have the knowledge of what to fix it?
In fact, I don't have a complete solution. I told that it was for us a problem. Yeah. The solution, the easy solution, is to have a smart guy that is able to understand Java, a smart UI designer that is able to understand some notions of Java. But that's not easy. So as it were, the JavaScript errors you may get have to be fixed in the Java. You can't tweak the output JavaScript. Yes, so we have to work in close collaboration between the two works. Right. No. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry. Are you nervous of competition from Gmail and so on?
Yes, of course.
Because you seem to be buying into the technology that they're developing, and it's...
Yes, that's an important question for us. For the moment, we have our advantages are that ContactOffice is a completely integrated application. And that, for example, our main customers, like universities in France, they will never put their data on a central server like Google one. But the day where Google will have appliances, a Gmail appliance, that will be, yes, an annoyance for us. Yes.
But you're not nervous of, I mean, Google having control of the GWT as well as...
It's not a real... the code is completely open source, and they are not... they are very transparent in the development of GWT, so I don't fear any problem from that. But, well, yes, we'll continue to evolve with Google Calendar, with Gmail, and so on. Okay, that's competition.
Hi there, sorry. The ContactOffice enhancements you described that you made, are those available at all, or are they close to the project that you've developed?
Sorry,
I'm here.
No, but I
The enhancements that you described that you've made to the GWT toolkit, are they close to the product you've developed, or have you considered making them available in any shape or form?
I'm sorry, I didn't...
Okay, sure. The enhancements that you've made, the
yes.
CO enhancements, yeah? Are those available in any shape or form, or are they specific to your project?
They are quite specific for a project, but in fact, there are some enhancements that are generic, like the drag and drop engine, and we've put the The drag and drop engine is in open source. It is available.
Can I find that off your website?
Yes, it is available. I've answered on the GWT forum. I don't remember exactly where the source code is located. It is in the public zone of beta.contactoffice.com.
Thank you very much.
And yeah.
So it's the same license, or?
Yes, it's an Apache 2 license. Yes.
I was just wondering, does all software developed using GWT have to be open sourced?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so it's not part of the license.
Apache 2 doesn't imply that it's not like GPL. It's very liberal. You can do anything you want with Apache 2 softwares. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you had any problem Have you had any problem in scalability? For example, I can imagine probably you have several web servers running in front of users, and probably you have a load balancer in front of your web servers. And then after you deploy your GWT-based application to your web server, but also JavaScript running in the user web browsers, do you have any problem? For example, if you use sticky session, or if, for example, if you don't use sticky session when a synchronized request go into a different server, how you handle that? Or it's no problem at all when using GWT?
No, in fact, we are using sticky session. A session is connected to a front end, a specific front end. But performance-wise, we don't have any specific problem. At equivalent functionalities, we are using less server work, server bandwidth at equivalent functionalities. But we will add. In fact, we are adding new functionalities like automatic folder refresh and so on. And those features are consuming more bandwidth and more CPU on our servers.
How about failover? For example, if you use sticky session and one web server gone, and
yes,
for example, how you handle this?
For the moment, we lose all the sessions
part
are
of the
lost.
users when they actually
Yes.
using that web server.
We have no. We have no failover at the session level.
Okay.
So at the server level, well, but you have to log in again on a new server.
Okay. Cheers.
Can you tell us about accessibility within your application?
Yeah, we didn't work on accessibility for the moment. And usability in general is still a question for us. There are some points we are still learning things, so it's too early to think about accessibility for the moment.
What would you say? Sorry, what would you say the advantages of a Dojo for using GWT?
I have no idea. For accessibility-wise, no.
No, not just accessibility-wise.
No, comparing, I think that Dojo has more widgets at the moment that. And more effects and so on that GWT for the moment. But to build a large-scale application, as I told you earlier, with Dojo, I feel that for me it's too complex to use. I would not be able. And we have very interesting productivity with GWT. And I guess that with Dojo we would have 1/10 of the productivity, so that makes we don't have all the tools provided by Java and so on. So,
but is that because you had Java developers when you started already, and therefore you looked for a Java solution anyway?
That's true. We are all Java developers, but we have some JavaScript experience. And software engineering experience, and we know that some of the weak points of JavaScript we feel that will make things very difficult for us.
Okay, thanks.